Hello, I am going to be giving an apologetic speech on the topic of omnipresence. According to NPR, citing a 2020 study, more than 3 in 5 Americans are lonely, as more people reporting feeling like they are left out, poorly understood, and lacking companionship. Many studies have said that America is experiencing a loneliness epidemic. But, however, as a Christian, we have a Father who is always with us. Today you've asked me the question, what does it mean that God is omnipresent, and why does this matter? God is personally present with his people. We'll first look at what omnipresence is, and then look at why it's important for the Christian and for the unbeliever. So first, let's look at what is omnipresence. Well, omnipresence means that God is everywhere present. That's what it means, everywhere present. God is a spirit, infinite, eternal, and unchangeable. In his being, wisdom, power, holiness, justice, goodness, and truth. What this means is that God can be everywhere. He can occupy every space, every moment of time. J.I. Packer says that God is not limited by space or time. God has no limits, and therefore his fullness is present at every point, everywhere. Psalm 139 verses 7 through 10 says, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the earth, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me." R.C. Sproul says, God in his attributes, including his holiness, wisdom, goodness, justice, knowledge, power, and so on, are fully present in his creation at every point. We often forget that the Lord is right at hand wherever we are, but our forgetfulness does not indicate his absence. We might forget that God is with us, but that doesn't mean that he isn't. This is a very important point to understand, because it might feel sometimes like God has left us on our own, but in fact, God is with us, with his people, all the time, wherever we are. But he's not just everywhere. He is present with his people in an intimate way. This leads us to our second point of why this matters. You see, God didn't just place us in our mother's womb. He was with us there, closer than even our mother could be. Psalm 139 verses 15 to 16 says, "For thou hast possessed my reins. Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. My substance was not hid from thee, when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being imperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there were none of them." You see, throughout the Bible, this truth of omnipresence, God's omnipresence, is so powerful and so real that it means that God is close beside us, comforting us, taking care of us. Some examples of this from the Bible are Jonah. When he was running away from God, he was trying to have God not find him, but God went after him. And when Jonah was in the bottom of the sea, drowning, God sent a whale to him to save him, and saved him again in 3 days and put him back on land. Daniel, when he was in the lion's den, was surrounded by lions that everybody thought was going to eat him, but God put his angels in there. God was with him and closed the lion's mouth so that Daniel was able to see the light of day again in the morning. And in the fiery furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in the fiery furnace, seemingly alone, but God was with them there in an intimate way. He was present with them and comforted them and saved them from the fire so that they could step out and be a witness to him. This doctrine can give us comfort. Martyrs and church fathers knew that even at the stake or at the loneliness of trials, God is always with those who trust in him. No matter how we feel, the fact is God is with those who trust in him. God began our life covering us in our mother's womb. He continues with us by our side and never leaves us until the end of our life. Psalm 71 verses 6 and 17 to 18 says, "By thee have I been holden up from the womb. Thou art he that took me out of my mother's bowels. My praise shall be continually of thee." This is only true for the Christians, however. Those that don't put their trust in God can't say that they can be comforted by God's presence, because God's omnipresence is a condemning truth for those who don't put their trust in Jesus for their salvation. So make sure that you are a sheep of the Good Shepherd's flock, because he never loses one of his sheep. So we've looked at what omnipresence is. Then we've looked at why it matters for the Christian. So now we know that whether we are lost in a sea of faces and are lonely and unknown, or if you're standing for something that no one else cares about, or if you're lying in a hospital bed sick and separated from your family and friends due to a worldwide pandemic, you can always remember Psalm 23 verse 4. "Yea, though I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Thank you.